welcome to your kitchen, Danny's Healing Kitchen. In today's episode, a holistic nutritionist and herbalist student is gonna join us today, and she's going to talk about, and she's gonna show us how to make tinctures, a vitamin C and also a calming tincture which helps with anxiety or even sleeping. So please join us today. And before we start, I want to introduce Karen Nicole. Hi Karen, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So before we start with that tinctures, would you like to tell us a little bit about you? What made you start all of this? I know you have at home a whole collection of tinctures, and she goes foraging all the time, and we're gonna make a show where we go foraging in the forest in another show. So I'm excited about that. But today we're going to be making, as I said before, tinctures. So I want you to, if you don't mind telling us why you started doing all this. I know you also transitioned your family to doing like a seasonal eating type of thing. So you want to tell us how you got started into all this?
Yeah, so my mom actually really got me hooked on plants when I was a little girl. And so I've always loved plants, but in different seasons of my life, it was a little bit more difficult to keep them alive, working full time, all that. So really what got me into the constituents of plants first was actually essential oils. And then I realized that those were kind of heavy hitters, a little bit too intense sometimes for our family. We're all kind of sensitive. So we had some health issues going on. We had Lyme and just some different things going on with sleep. And so I started really researching the best ways that I could help my kids first, and then myself, just to kind of work through those things using the plants that God had given us. And that's it.
Awesome.
Just kind of took off from there. So.
Awesome. I love it. So right now we're going to be making, you are going to be making a vitamin C tincture. So go ahead and tell us what we need in the ingredients, please.
So I'm actually going to put some gloves on.
Yep.
Which is just good. It's good to have gloves on just to make sure no, material falls from your hands.
Yeah.
They've been in a bag, so they're fully clean. Okay, so we're going to be using the folk method for making tinctures, actually, which is kind of a less scientific method. You're not measuring as much. However, we did put a recipe up for making this size of a tincture jar that is less folk method. So you want to start, I'm doing only a pint jar because I have a lot of stuff at home already going, so I didn't need a whole lot more. But this is just a good one to have on hand during this season for the winter. All year round really, vitamin C is really helpful. So the folk method is basically you fill up your jar, you can do half or full way, and then you fill the rest with your vodka or whatever menstruum you're going to be using. Menstruum just is basically the extracting liquid, and some people use brandy. It has to be a high proof alcohol. You can also use vegetable glycerin.
Yeah, I was going to ask you,
yes.
Does some people, I read in, and this is a book that I do for me who I'm just starting about tinctures. It says that you could use apple cider vinegar. Is that something that you would recommend?
So you can. That's actually called an oxymel.
Okay.
Yes, you can use it as a menstruum as well. It's a milder form. Every herb is alcohol soluble.
I see.
So
okay.
it will extract everything. It also is more shelf stable,
okay.
less prone to mold.
So
and things
you would
like
recommend more alcohol than anything else?
Yes, but for children, even though it's such a small amount, once you get to it, because you put it in a dropper bottle, you're taking just drops. For children, I do recommend doing a glycerite. I just did not have any more glycerin.
Sure, absolutely.
And there aren't that many good brands that don't use palm oil.
Okay,
so,
sure.
So we are going to, we'll have this out here. And then I'm going to measure each one. Okay, so I have a half cup. I'm going to do about half cup of each. Right here we have the hibiscus flowers. Put those in there.
You usually don't measure, right? Because I know that you told me before, and that's how I cook. I don't measure.
Yes.
So if you just want to pour it in there, it's fine. People would know that it's half a cup, but if you just want to pour it in there, it's completely fine.
So it's going to be about,
that's fine.
Yes, I don't really measure, but at first, and even at first, I did measure a little bit, but then I started kind of eyeballing things, and it just got easier.
And this is alfalfa,
yes,
correct?
that is
okay.
alfalfa. Actually,
this is alfalfa.
Put,
yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I could put the rest of it.
Yeah.
I just kind of was grabbing stuff.
No,
and
that's
putting
okay.
it in bags, and then this is rose hips, and I really love to reuse old jars. That's why you see most of my jars are not like this. I love these jars. I haven't seen these in a long time, but I really just like to have as zero waste of a kitchen and home as possible.
Those are rose hips.
These are rose hips, and they're crushed up. You can also get whole rose hips. That's something I actually really like to forage, and that's very prevalent in this area.
Rose hips?
Along paths.
Cool,
yeah, you can find rose hips almost everywhere.
Can't wait until we go foraging.
I
actually have
really
never
fun.
done it, so.
Then we'll do some lemon peels. You probably, I mean, if you've been out on the trail and you've identified stuff, you're halfway there.
Yeah.
So we'll do those. And you do want to make sure that you do get all of the fruit off. So we won't use this one because when you leave the fruit, any moisture, that's why I use dried herbs. I have, you know, when I've gotten them, just been so excited and made them out of fresh herbs, and it is just more prone to mold and different strange things in the water.
Oh,
so
cool.
You want, even if you fresh forage them, you want to make sure to let them at least wilt and let some of that moisture dry out. So I won't be using that one, I'll be using that one.
So again, even on the alcohol base, it will create mold? Like it will be mold?
I didn't think so, but I've done a couple of different tinctures, and I don't know that it was mold, but some strange little things that I didn't want in there.
Oh yeah, so. No, absolutely. No, it's very interesting because you wouldn't think the alcohol would kill any.
Yeah,
no,
you
that's
would
very
think
nice.
that
Yeah,
for sure.
Cool.
But it's just better, and you can really make a more potent tincture with dried herbs. They kind of concentrate as they dry.
Oh, so. Cool. And the other thing I want to touch base is you want to take the wet stuff off the lemon, but you want to leave the white, right? Because the white is what have the bioflavonoids. That's correct,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
That's basically the most important.
The vitamin C on the lemons is when we take vitamin C, it's important that we have the bioflavonoids.
Flavonoids,
yes,
yeah, bioflavonoids.
in them, so that way those are the ones that help us to absorb the vitamin C, correct?
Right, that's the active compound basically.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and pour this in here. Now you will want to make sure, is that spoon available? Okay, that's okay. I have gloves so I can push it down. You just want to make sure that you're pushing all of the oxygen out. So you do want to kind of push it down in there. And what's nice about the lemon peels is you can use it kind of as like a lid to do that.
Did you put the elderberries in there? I didn't.
No, because I did not have the elderberries on the recipe, I don't believe, but we can add those. I was going to do it like as an optional.
Oh, an optional, the elderberries. Yeah. Okay, I see.
In case, because around this time of year too, it's really hard to get elderberries actually.
Oh, that's
they sell out like on different websites.
And people are so like accustomed elderberry syrup. So, but I want to ask you, what would be the difference between elderberry syrup versus the tincture right now? Like if we put it in the tincture, like would it have better? I would have guessed that it would have better benefits since it's all mixed in there and also it's in the alcohol base.
Yeah, so the good thing about the alcohol is that you do skip out on the sugar portion. Yes. I love making elderberry syrup. However, sometimes I'm like, gosh, it's like, you know, I don't really have sugar most days. Yeah. So having that, I'm getting a tablespoon of sugar every day because it is. And so I already do half the honey in there, but I personally make a glycerite of elderberry and tinctures because it's just easier to take like that. Nice. So, yeah. Okay. Just like do that. Okay, so that would be it. And ideally, you would want to use something to tamp it all down. You basically want to make sure that your liquid comes above the herbs. These seem to be riding up a little bit. So for the first week, what you do after this, that's basically it. You just go ahead, you add all your materials, and then you cap it.
You don't add anything else, you just add the vodka, and that's it.
Yes, the vodka and the herbs, and it's going to extract all the good stuff that you need. And then you put the lid on. And for the first week, you want to check it every day. Make sure that the vodka level is above your material, because that is where mold can grow. And you don't want that to happen, obviously.
So do people need to shake it?
Yeah, and you can shake it around just to kind of, you know, you can see the hibiscus is already
it's already getting
in there. And then you'll just want to open it every day.
Every day and just see it.
After that, the lowest amount of time that you want to go is 4 weeks. Some people have done 2 weeks. I don't feel as comfortable with that because I just feel like it needs more time to steep.
What is the maximum amount of time?
Honestly, I have some that are 6 months that I forgot about.
With the herbs, they just sit there.
With herbs. So the great thing about the alcohol is it makes it virtually completely shelf stable for a long time. Now I did have one that, and this is why also I'm using a plastic lid, because they can start to corrode the metal.
Okay.
And then you get a situation where there's weird stuff, and mold can actually grow around the lid too if it gets moist. So that would be my only.
So where would people store that? Like where would be, does it have to be in a dark place?
Yes.
I'm assuming a cool kind of place. But
yeah, temperature controlled, not frozen. I have seen people put infusions on their
shelves or
their windowsill. I personally,
with the sun?
With the sun, more so for oils, but I really like these amber bottles. That way I can leave them. You saw on my apothecary, I just kind of have them out. But I do have an entire cabinet too that I put stuff in, and one under the, like to the side of the sink. So they're kind of everywhere. But yeah, anywhere that's
so
covered.
It's okay if it is on the sun, like the sun hitting them, or do they have to be in the shadow?
Okay. Yeah, I would rather put it in more of a dark place, just not direct sunlight, like not a windowsill.
Okay.
But I know some people do that, and that's the thing with herbalism. Everybody does things a little bit differently. Like there is a science to it, but then you kind of get your own, rhythm going and the way that you like to do things that works for you.
Okay.
And I do recommend people to have a notebook where you write kind of your experiments in.
Yes.
And that way you can see, because like if you were just, let's say I was just, making this on a whim, I'm going to add a little of this, little of that, which has happened a lot of times. I write it down because oftentimes, this is amazing, I want to make this again. But if you haven't written it down, you're not going to remember.
You don't know what you put in there. That's correct. Yeah.
Which has also happened to me, which is why I have a notebook now.
Okay. So after that, after they have done that, what is the next step for that?
So really it's just
they strain it?
Waiting. Oh yes. So after the waiting, so yes, you would strain it, which I did not bring a strainer because this is the beginning portion of it. You would put it in either a spray bottle or a dropper bottle. You've probably seen dropper bottles, on store shelves everywhere of tinctures. That is the easiest. I kind of like the spray though, because for kids it makes it a little more fun.
Yeah.
And so it's easier to take. But really, it's up to the user.
How about the dosage especially for this vitamin C1? Like say 1 dropper?
Yeah, I would say 1 dropper.
1 dropper, and when we are sick, we tend to have a little bit, we tend to need a little bit more than the usual dosage. So what would you say, would be 3 droppers a day, 4 droppers a day when we are sick? What would you think?
So I would say double it. You can also do less, and really it depends also on if it's a child or an adult.
Yes.
So for children, half a dropper. Some recipes I've seen that are really strong, again, not necessarily with the folk method.
Yes.
I've seen to do even less.
I see.
I feel comfortable with half a dropper for children and a full dropper for adults, and then doubling that if you are sick. And you can even do that multiple times per day. But there are certain, you should always check if you're pregnant, if the herbs in this tincture
are safe.
Are safe or interact negatively with you. And people who have different conditions, there are different, we can't go into all those right now, but you should just always research, even when you're making stuff at home, just a quick research of what you're putting in and make sure that it goes with your body.
I was going to ask you that, if there were some contradictions with some herbs, because I know some people that take medications or something could be contradictive to take some herbs. And also the next question is what would you be, can we mix any herb together, or are there any specific guidelines to mix herbs in general?
So I personally say yes, you can mix them all together.
Just play around with it, okay.
Yeah, I call my kitchen lab, and I love, that's where I make a lot of my concoctions of different kinds, and I love just mixing different things and coming up with new recipes, whether it be cooking-wise or this-wise, and I've come up with some really awesome things that I wouldn't have thought to put together. So I always say experiment, but do your research a little bit. Maybe get a book, or the internet is a great resource. You can type in any herb name and contraindications, or benefits and find out so much. So
it's amazing. Like, I know you brought a book right there, and I also have this one that I mentioned before, that it's a really good beginner book. And we are at the Q&A segment. We're gonna go in depth more about, you know, some specific guidelines for people like me who are just starting out and things like that. But as of right now, we are going to go to make the next one.
Okay, so now that we finished the vitamin C tincture, we're gonna go ahead and make our calming, brain helping tincture. So the ingredients that we're gonna be using today and that you can use at home are lemon balm, St. John's wort, chamomile, German chamomile, oat straw tops, and that's it for today. Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and take the messiest one first and have it at the bottom so those little pieces can't float up.
Is that chamomile?
This is the chamomile. Okay. And this is actually just a really good herb for your digestive system as well. It's great for sleep. And it's non-habit forming. It's very gentle.
Can I say something about the chamomile?
Yeah.
So my mother-in-law has a lot of like digestive issues, and I've been fermenting chamomile for her, and she is absolutely loving it. She said it's so soothing, and it's been really helping. She has diverticulitis, and it's really been helping. So I'm glad that you brought the chamomile, because it's really good for digestion. Yeah,
it really is. And if you think about, I mean, as you know too, gut health has so much to do with calming the nervous system too. So this is kind of like a double hitter, which I really appreciate.
And the calming tincture that you said before, it works for anxiety and also for sleeping. That's
it
correct,
can.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So I was going to talk about an add-in if you did want to make it a full-on sleep tincture. But this is just good to kind of calm you down.
Calm the nervous system down.
All of it.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of times when we're nervous, our stomach is kind of in knots too. Yes. And I feel like that's how the chamomile helps a lot too.
Yes, very nice.
So we're going to go from there. So we're going to do, and again, we're using the folk method. So we're just going to fill up the jar. We're not necessarily measuring. You know, you can be heavy-handed on the ingredients that you like better. And okay, we're going to do this one. This is the St. John's wort.
And what would the St. John's wort do, like on this case? I know you said it was optional and it's not on the recipe on the screen.
Correct.
But you can add it absolutely. And what would you say are the benefits to it?
So it is nature's antidepressant.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we can say that or not, but it's just really good for promoting brain health in general and mood boosting and calming. So it's a really happy, calming herb.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and so we got that. And so the oat straw was what we had the least of. But so your jar may not look like this because we're kind of...
And like you said before, the recipe on the screen is gonna make a quart jar. So you're gonna have you're gonna need a lot more. Yeah, you're gonna need a lot more of each ingredient at home and a lot more vodka. But right now we're making half of the recipe has. So we're just winging it.
Correct. And truly at home, if you want to make this size jar, you can just half the recipe.
That's correct. Yeah, you can also have the option to do that if you don't have as many herbs. So the other question is like, what if you have more of one herb versus another one? Is it okay to put more of some? Would it throw it off balance? Like, what if you want to move? Like, I know at home, some of us, we all go through depression at some time. And many people, especially during these times, have been depressed and all that stuff. Would you recommend putting more this of the St. John's wort in that recipe? Would it throw it off? What would be the difference between that? Or can people make one just of this one?
Oh, yes, you can actually. So I thought about it after we had come up with these recipes, and I was like, it could have been helpful too to do single ingredient ones, but we just really wanted to show you guys kind of these combinations.
Yes, absolutely.
But it can be better to start with just one single herb if you're feeling, you know, not confident in it or whatever, or not like experimenting. So this would really be a good one for everybody these days. Would it be the same method?
Like, would it be just the whole jar of the herb in vodka, and then that would be it, and fermented for at least 4 weeks and on whatever, as much as you want to, and the dropper would be the I mean, not the dropper, the amount you would take would be the same amount as you said before?
Yes.
Like a whole dropper. Okay, cool. So we know now that,
Yeah.
that we can do single recipes. It's okay. That we can do single recipes.
The same. And you could do less. You could do a smaller jar since you're going to have all of that. And you may not want to use that much herb, you know, and you just want to see how it works for your body.
Cool, okay.
Yeah, so really, if there's an herb, like in this one, I put the most lemon balm because that's one of my favorite herbs. I love lemon balm. So, you know, you really can do whichever you want the benefits of, put the most of that. There's really, I mean, there is a science to it, but it's up to you because you're going to be taking it for your family.
Right,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
And now next we put that vodka, yeah.
So that's what I was going to say. This is valerian root, and I've found when you were talking about should you put more or less, with roots, oftentimes you can put a little bit less because they tend to be more heavy hitting than the aerial parts, like the leaves and stems. So for this, that's why I have such a small jar. First of all, it's really stinky.
Okay.
And I'm just going to put, well, we don't have to make this. I just wanted to show it. So it is valerian root.
Okay.
Okay, so then, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this. And now this is filled a little bit low. This is more just a demonstration.
But
so
it's the same thing. Like we just need to make sure it's covered all the way to the top, that the vodka is covering all the way to or whatever they're using, either the glycerin or anything else they're using at home that it's covered. Yeah. Okay.
And so after that first week, it has absorbed so much more of the liquid that it will want to stay under there. For now, it's still fighting being dry and wet, and so that's why it rises up.
That's why the very first week it's important that we keep checking every day. Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, so go ahead and do that, and then we will put the lid back on. And again, same thing as the other one. You just want to make sure that you're checking it, shaking it once a day for that first week, and then after that, you really can set it and forget it. If you want, if it's your first time, you can just check it once a week, just to check on it and make sure that it's okay, but it should be okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Was so useful, and I really appreciate that you coming. We're going to go to next to the Q&A segment, so thank you so much. See you soon. Okay, so we are here again with Karen, and I have a few questions for her, but first she brought some of the tinctures she had already made at home. So can you tell us what you have today and what are your tinctures that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this one is a goldenrod glycerite. This was made with that vegetable glycerin that we were talking about earlier, and this is really good for allergies because the pollen in goldenrod is a little bit different, so it's kind of like an inoculation of pollen for the body, so it helps with those seasonal allergies. I actually add this to elderberry syrup sometimes, or the elderberry tincture. Then this one is a homemade bitters, and this one is in alcohol. Bitters, and we can go over that
another time, but the bitters are for digestive system.
Right, they're really good for digestion, and so this one has chamomile, orange peels, and marshmallow root. And that's actually what is also in here. It's bottled from a different batch. And this one is that elderberry glycerite that I was talking about. So it's just easier to take. You take less. It doesn't raise your blood sugar.
Absolutely. So what is your go-to favorite tincture ever? Like what would you always have in your like emergency kit? I know we always have that type of thing. What at least 2 or 3. What are your top 3 that you would have with you?
I definitely, I really do, like I said, love lemon balm and chamomile, and I think that they're so multifunctional for adults and children. Okay. And we like to calm emotions in our home. So, and I had kids who like never slept, so they've been very beneficial for us. Elderberry, of course. I feel like that's like everybody's. And I really like for topical, you can also, this is a whole side No, but you can also make like a topical wound wash. And so yarrow is probably my favorite herb.
Okay.
I'm just very drawn to it. And so you can use that for a wound wash or like skin. Yeah, you can use them topically as well, but mostly they're good for
So
internal.
for someone like me who is just starting, what would you recommend? Like when someone who has not even any idea what to do with herbs, but they would really want to start doing something like tinctures at home, because tinctures, I know at the store they are a lot more expensive than the ones you can make at home.
Absolutely.
So some of the benefits, to get tinctures versus buying them at the store is that you can make them at home, but it could be scary for someone who has never even heard of herbs before. I mean, everybody have heard of herbs, but making them at home could be
Medicinally.
scary. So what would you recommend? What would be the first step for someone to start doing their own tinctures?
I think chamomile would be a good one to start on for sure, just because of the benefits that we discussed. But I really think, honestly, being involved in the entire process. So I would say starting to grow herbs would be the first step. Maybe pick 3 herbs that you really like, even if it's just been for cooking.
Yeah,
Because they're all multifunctional, and start to grow them and get acquainted with the entire process. And then, you can make them yourself. Or you can buy things from different wholesale, natural marketplaces, like dried herbs, and start that way too. But
Sure. So what would you say are the difference between the tincture and a pill form? Because I know a lot of people take herbs in a pill. So what would you say the benefits would be for the tinctures instead of the pills?
So I think, and I do take both, but I do think that it's a lot easier for children to take a tincture than it is a pill. My son, who's 10, can finally swallow pills, but my daughter, who's 7, can't.
Yes.
So she's stuck on tinctures, whether she likes it or not. And I think that you do get a more concentrated version in a smaller dose. You don't have to take 3 pills. You can take just a dropper full.
Okay.
And it is very cost effective when you make them yourself. It's harder to make pills yourself, trust me. I have the little capsule thing and it's just a mess. So.
Okay. Awesome, Karen. It was so awesome to have you here. So if people want to contact you on social media, where would they contact you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Nourish Natural Family and on Facebook under Karen Nicole.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining me today on another episode of Danny's Healing Kitchen. I will see you guys on another episode.